It would not continually begin as an explosion. Once in a while it starts off evolved quietly, only a passing commentary with a hint of venom, a smirk that lingers a moment too long, a surprising shift in tone when you walk into the room. People often inform themselves it's not anything, they chuckle it off. They decide it's not well worth the problem till it occurs again, louder, sharper, and in the front of others. By then, the harm is already taking root. Because here's the reality, disrespect that you ignore would not disappear, it spreads, and to those watching, silence can look loads like permission. Machiavelli understood this far better than most, in a global pushed via power, photo, and hierarchy. He knew that recognize isn't earned like a prize, it's maintained like a fort. When someone crosses you, the way you reply shapes no longer most effective how they treat you. However, how absolutely everyone else decides to deal with you from that moment ahead. The primary instance of disrespect is not often approximately hatred or personal vendetta. More often, it is a probe, a take a look at to see in which your limitations lie. If you fail to take a look at, you don't just seem gentle. You're marked as a safe target for the destiny. It truly is why the instant it happens, your move ought to be deliberate. Not later, not after you have notioned it over proper. Then, however right, here's the trap. Your reaction should not be a burst of anger. The only who reacts emotionally in public almost always loses status. As a substitute, you cross nonetheless, no longer passive nevertheless. You withdraw your energy so abruptly that the air shifts. That is the first Machiavellian law of answering disrespect. The unpredictable character holds the electricity. Silence doesn't imply pretending it didn't take place. It way you cut off the drift of your interest completely. You don't snigger the smooth things over. You don't give an explanation for why you do not feed the instant with any extra power. You certainly allow your absence be felt on your eyes, your voice, and the way you no longer take part in their rhythm. Disrespect prospers on response, whether that reaction is anger, protection, or even apprehensive laughter. However, while it's met with cold stillness, it begins to appearance small, petty, and obvious to everybody within the room. Machiavelli himself became never the only to strike first. He could watch, permit his warring parties screen themselves completely, and handiest then act with precision. Your next step mirrors this. You carry the violation into the open, however no longer through insults or shouting. You do it through a query added with surgical calm, turned into that intended to come across the manner it did. Are you sure you need to face by way of that? That sounded private. Could you like to make clear earlier than I reply? You're no longer denying what came about. You're giving them a threat to both retract or double down, and either choice exposes them. The majority who disrespect others are opportunists, no longer warriors. They may be trying out the waters, no longer preparing for struggle. Whilst you respond without emotion, but with unwavering clarity, you shift the pressure again onto them. What you are aiming for here is not revenge. It is doubt. Doubt makes humans hesitate before trying once more, and doubt, once planted, is a ways greater powerful than any chance you may voice. But here's the deeper layer. Handling 1 second nicely is not sufficient. Disrespect frequently returns when the other man or woman thinks you've softened or moved on. This is why the third step is critical. You redraw the connection at once. You do not go back to regular. You do not faux nothing came about. You change your posture, your tone, and the get admission to they ought to you. If the instant became public, your new distance need to be public, too. You speak to them greater formally. You limit communique. You hold responses polite but minimum. You are now not appearing anger. You're demonstrating new obstacles. This quiet shift is louder than any comeback. It indicates no longer handiest them. However, the room that the line has been redrawn, and it will maintain. Machiavelli taught that a well-timed, justified public outcome would not just punish, it educates. The ones looking take word, they adjust. Your name now consists of weight due to the fact they have got visible. What happens when someone attempts you? This isn't always about being feared. It is approximately being known as a person who cannot be performed with. The loudest individual within the room is rarely the maximum respected. The one who holds their floor without explaining themselves. That's the one humans calculate around. However, allows be honest. A few humans can't assist themselves. They may attempt once more, now not with the same boldness, however with something subtler, a 1/2 joke, a moderate exclusion, a forgetful oversight. That is in which you circulate into the second layer of protection, disproportionate effect. Machiavelli's philosophy wasn't built on fairness, it turned into built on effects. If the punishment fits the offense, it is forgettable. However, if it exceeds the offense, it turns into a story. They'll inform themselves on every occasion they think about stepping over that line again. Once they move you again, you do not get louder, you get chillier. If the moderate takes place publicly, your response should land publicly, however with precision. You chop them out of the communication. You solution their query with one clipped phrase earlier than turning away. You treat their try at humor with the social equivalent of a closed door. The authentic sting isn't being insulted. It is losing get entry to someone who as soon as stated you. It really is the wound they don't forget. Here's in which many fail. They start strong, but then ease up hoping to restore the relationship. They need to be preferred. They want harmony. However, Machiavelli would inform you, recognize is not earned through forgiveness. It's earned through constant effect. People are constantly watching. They word the way you handled the first second, and they are looking for whether or not you will preserve that same energy. That is your risk. Reshape your picture completely. As soon as human beings start associating your call with precision, obstacles, and manage, the way they speak round you changes. Their jokes are more cautious. Their tone is extra measured. And the beauty is you did not ask for this. You built it via disciplined responses. Nonetheless, there may be an extraordinary type, the provocator. They thrive on disruption. They experience pulling others off balance. For them, a simple boundary won't be enough. If they improve, you enhance too, however socially, not emotionally. You switch their own behavior into the spotlight. That's an exciting remark. Do you say that during professional settings too? If it truly is the way you talk for your friends, I might hate to peer the way you treat strangers. I am amazed you felt relaxed pronouncing that out loud. You're no longer preventing, you are framing. Are making the room see them for what they're, insecure, impulsive, and small. And nothing shrinks a provocator quicker than public publicity. This is Machiavellian retaliation. It's calm, specific, and leaves them wearing the weight of their own phrases. You do not need to win the argument. You just need them to understand the combat become a mistake. Over time, something shifts. You now not deal with disrespect as a non-public assault. You deal with it as statistics. It exhibits greater about them than approximately you. You spot the insecurity at the back of the jab, the envy in the back of the sarcasm, the desperation behind the fake smile. Now you decide. Do they preserve get admission to, or do you put off them totally? Do you let them fade into irrelevance, or did you use their conduct as a warning to others? Either manner, you are not reacting, you're orchestrating. The most effective position is when humans guard their behavior around you without you saying a phrase. Your presence on my own is enough to lead them to self-correct. It is whilst you've won, due to the fact the last form of power is not making humans worry your reaction. It's making them fear losing their vicinity to your global. You don't need to argue. You do not need to show yourself. You do not need to raise your voice. You move with a stage of area that makes one violation the remaining, and whilst the inevitable happens, when a person realizes too overdue that they've crossed a line, you don't rush to punish or to forgive. You do something some distance greater powerful. You depart them unchanged to your presence. No anger, no warmth, just absence in which there as soon as become connection. It truly is the most chilling message you may ship. You're now not a thing in my world. They may sense it in each phrase you no longer say, in every look you now not give, and over the years they will realize the fact. Your recognize became never theirs via proper. It was a privilege, and privileges can be revoked. That is the game Machiavelli might have you play. Now not the loud ruler who reacts to each mild, but the quiet strategist who permits others to spoil themselves at the same time as you continue to be unshaken. The loudest lesson you may ever educate is taught in silence.